Is it too hard for you?
Woo! We're playing catch now. Oh, shit.
Welcome to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. Many boomers are also empty nesters these days and are looking at downsizing as an alternative to aging in place. My guest today, Chris Bate, is the leader of Chris Bate Real Estate team at Keller Williams. Welcome, Chris.
Bill, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, Chris, downsizing. I know you do a lot these days with helping my generation, the boomers, who is also your generation, figure out where they want to be when they grow up.
Indeed.
And so
Yep.
the kids are finally out of the house, or pretty much, and not coming back, hopefully.
Right, we have to make sure they're not on their way back in.
Yeah, and so now, you start getting into all kinds of different dynamics about, do we want to stay, do we want to go? Does one want to stay, does the other one want to go? And so you get thrust into the middle of all this.
We do.
So tell me a little bit about why people are downsizing and what that looks like.
Okay, well, it obviously varies from family to family, couple to couple, individual to individual. And the first question I always have for people, they call me in with the idea of a guy who is going to sell my house and help me find another one or not. And what I really want to get into with them is the why. Okay, that's always my first question for them: is what are your goals? Because your goals aren't to sell a house. Your goals are to end up in another place, in a better situation, change your situation, change your climate, change any number of things about the way you're currently living. And so the answer, always comes back in a few different ways. One, it's quite possibly they're simply looking to, again, the custom term or the generic term is downsize. And so they want to get out of a bigger house into a smaller house. Less maintenance, less cost, less work, just overall, between cutting grass and shoveling snow and so on and so on.
I can relate to that. I downsized over 2 years ago and threw away my lawnmower and gave away my snowblower.
There you go. There you go. So you understand.
Oh, yeah.
And then sometimes it's not about that as much as it is about they just want to change locations. They want to move to a warmer climate. We have a high population that does move to the southern regions.
Or be closer to the grandchildren, or
Well, and again, that's another reason for changing locations. And then sometimes you might be surprised to learn, or not, that there's a large financial component to it. There's always a financial piece, but it's not always the cause. Sometimes it is the cause.
so in other words, finding a way to get the equity out of the home to help support a retirement income plan, selling the house may be part of that.
Exactly. And it runs the gamut. We like to think that somebody who's been in their home 30, 40 years, something in that neighborhood, has a house that's probably paid for.
Well, unless they took a second mortgage to send their kid to Villanova.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. So we run into that thing too. And it's my job in this whole thing to care for that entire goal, the idea of what they want to pursue. And so we have to very carefully go through what their goals are. The next thing that becomes involved in it is there's a sort of emotional just component. So what I mean is maybe you have one partner that wants to move and one partner that doesn't. And I've seen that any number of times. We start going out looking at options, and then they finally go, we're not leaving. He's told me we're not leaving. And so then, we bounce back and we wait, or we, regroup in some way. People have a very difficult time leaving the house that they've been in for an emotional reason for 30, 40
all the
or more
memories.
years.
Oh, yeah.
All the memories. We try to make sure that they understand is that the memories go with them. The memories don't stay in the house and become somebody else's. The memories go with them. So that's always something we have to be on the lookout for. We become something of, not just their real estate agent, but sometimes, their marriage counselor, their, therapist, and their best friend all at the same time, because they come to us with the whys and the heartfelt stuff of why they may or may be doing something.
Well, one of the things I know about you, Chris, and one of the reasons why I wanted you to be on the show is because I understand that while any realtor, full or part-time, can get a listing and put it on the MLS and hope somebody sells it.
Right.
There's a difference between a lot of other guys and gals in the business and you. And you alluded to some of that. You're there to help people. You're there to find out their why or what matters to them. And it may be, as you said at the end of it, they don't list their house.
Right.
But the goodwill that comes from that, from doing what's right for them and from being patient and moving at their pace, not yours, is what's special about you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of that goes into this, and I'm very upfront with people right from the beginning. It's not until I get to know you and get to know your goals that I want to start making suggestions and give you professional advice on what to do about all of it. Not just, you can sell your house for this much money in this amount of time. That's great, but maybe that's not what we're really about. And in more cases than not, it's not. And so we have to dig a little deeper to get to the root of what they really want to accomplish.
Now, I know in my business, sometimes people want to go too far ahead too quickly.
Yes.
And sometimes it's because they're in a hurry, and other times it's because they just don't really understand the process. So I'm sure you get that sometimes. People want to get the listing agreement done, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, let's step back from that.
Right. So when they've made the decision that this is what they want to do, one of the first things I then ask is, okay, if you were to sell this home before you found the perfect living solution, what does that mean to you? Or the opposite, you want to be in a certain place, and do we go find that home, and are you in a position to buy that home before you sell this one? Okay, and getting to the root of those things is all part of the process. There's the logistics part of it, getting the house listed, getting the house packed, getting the house sold, calling the mover, and making that happen. One of the huge stumbling blocks people have is in a downsize is, what do I do with all my stuff? They have a lifetime of collections in their home. They're moving to a home that has several less cubic feet of storage space than they once had. It's sad. There are television shows dedicated to people who have put all this stuff in storage and then never got back to it before something else happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So we try to discourage that. I'll just put all my stuff in storage because bad idea.
Yeah, it becomes an expensive monthly nut, to just hang on to stuff you need to let go of.
You need to let go of, and that is so difficult for so many people. I've had people actually go to make an offer on a home that they want to move to, go back, measure every wall, every window, and then go, wait, all my stuff's not going to fit, and I will not part with all of these things. And we go, okay, let's back up a few steps and start again. So what we do with all that stuff, okay? So any good realtor has a Rolodex full of people and service companies that help with those sorts of things. An emotional piece that then adds into that is, well, aren't my things worth more than you're telling me, or
nobody wants any of that stuff anymore. Your kids don't want it.
Your kids don't want it. Yeah. Somebody said something very wise to me, which I didn't realize it until they said it to me. The internet has made the rare thing common. And so, for instance, in my personal circumstance, my grandmother's Hummel plates, she collected them for many, many years. Okay. When I finally got them in a box, because my mother never displayed them, I got them in a box. I went online. I went, boy, these things are just, they're a dime a dozen, you know? I mean, she had a special one occasionally, but in the collection of stuff, the whole thing of it wasn't worth the time I was spending on it, sadly. And so what do you do with all that, you know? And so we have, you know, a whole group of people. Another component to that then is I need or want to get the very most I can out of the house. And sometimes that's a mismatch as well. What they want to do is going to cost a certain amount, and maybe it's unrealistic to think that that can be obtained through the sale of the house they currently live in. So do I remodel a kitchen? Do I remodel a bathroom? Do I replace HVAC system components, things of that nature?
Well, I know a good realtor is able to really help people determine where you will get the benefit from that and where you won't. A lot of people think they have to do these things. No, you don't have to do these things. It just depends on, are you going to get the return on investment?
Are you going to get the return on investment? Are you going to get the return on aggravation factor? And the other, the misconception that they get is what they see on TV. Because we have channels and channels of people flipping houses and fixing houses and doing it, and it all looks very, sometimes it looks easy, sometimes it looks difficult. But they get a predisposed idea to what that process should be and what they think they're going to get out of it. Especially when a couple of guys come in and they say, you're going to invest this much and you're going to get this much. And it's nowhere near as true, and the profit margin is usually nowhere near what reality really is.
We'll talk more about that and other aspects of downsizing when we come back after a word from our sponsors, with more of Live Better Longer with my guest, Chris Bate.
Why should you choose Rowan College at Gloucester County? Low cost. The #1 nursing program in all of New Jersey. More than 70 programs of study, including selective admissions. With record enrollment. A premier partnership with Rowan University. Transfer options with numerous universities. 4-year degree options on our campus. Rowan College at Gloucester County. Now you're thinking.
Choosing Medicare coverage can be a very confusing and complicated process. Help is just a phone call away, 856-226-4800. As a licensed insurance agent, I'll assist you in making an informed and confident decision on a Medicare plan that meets your needs, lifestyle, and budget. Call me today for a free, no obligation Medicare benefits consultation, 856-226-4800.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to create a better visitor experience.
Improve our workflow.
Attract new customers. That's when Fast Signs recommended Fleet Graphics.
Yeah, now business is rolling in. Get started at fastsigns.com.
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton, here with Chris Bate from Keller Williams. Chris, before the break, we were talking about some of the financial aspects of selling your home, and I know the tendency is to always want to get the most for your house, as you indicated, and particularly if maybe you bought it at the height of the market and now it's coming back from a downturn, but you may not be able to get what you want for it. And so there's pluses and minuses to where you list your house. But tell me a little bit about the realities of that pricing.
Sure. Okay. So yes, everyone has a preconceived notion as to what their house is worth. And sometimes that does or does not match up with what the market will bear. The common theme in what all people want in this process is you want the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of hassle.
Gee, how about that? You make that happen all the time,
We make
right?
that happen all the time, right? And it depends, of course, on how much pushback we get on certain pieces of that. So yeah, this becomes a little bit of a scientific endeavor and a little bit of a heartfelt endeavor on their side. And what we have to make sure they understand is only the marketplace, only the buying market will decide what their house is valued at, okay? Not what the neighbor got, not what their friend said, not what they paid for it, not what they put into it, or any of those things. Only the buying public will decide, okay? Difficult situation, especially in this market, is to have a house overpriced on the market for too long before they finally make the decision of we better come down because the showings and the feedback that we're getting aren't matching up with our expectations. Okay, and that's in a busy market. That's always a downside. People look at, well, your house has been on the market 6 weeks. What gives?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
And they start questioning any buying decision towards that house. So having it priced in a way where you are going to be treated fairly, but you're also treating the public fairly or as fairly as they deserve to obtain your goals. I have people all the time say to me, well, I want to sell this 4-bedroom house in the suburbs and move to a 3-bedroom whatever on the beach in some wonderful place. And what I want to provide that for you, but if you don't have the backup finances, the value of that purchase isn't going to be found in your home. And somebody who's been in a house for 30, 40, whatever years finds that hard to swallow sometimes. But it is true. I don't like to get too involved because it's not my area of expertise in people's personal finances. Well, what do you have? Well, I have stocks and I have IRAs and I have this and that. And that's your area of expertise, not mine. Okay, so I have had many conversations with someone's financial advisor, saying this is what they have, this is what they want to do. Will you help me talk to them about what the possibilities are to achieve the goals they want? But no, I don't really like getting too personal with them about that because again, it's not what I do.
Sure, no, I understand.
But tell me what you have to work with, and I'll tell you what you can do with it.
So I know when we sold our house in Medford back in the beginning of 2016, we had a one-of-a-kind home. And so the comps in the neighborhood weren't real helpful.
Right.
And again, it was what was somebody willing to pay for it, and what did it need to have done to it. And so it was a very difficult decision as to what to list it for. And the realtor wanted us to list it for less than what I thought we could get for it. And there again, they do the Tuesday walkthrough with all the realtors, and you have your first open house, and you quickly get that cold splash of water in the face.
A little bit. I like to say that 4 things sell a house: location, condition, price, and marketing. So I have control over 25% of that. Okay, I'm going to market your house. We're going to decide together what the price should be, but the location and the condition are what they are. Now, with a unique house, with a house that doesn't fit the mold necessarily of the neighborhood maybe that surrounds it, yes, there is someone who will come in and just love your particular, what you've done, okay? People do tend to over-personalize a house sometimes, and when we talk about what should I do to my house before I put it on the market, sometimes that is, let's get rid of some of this really personalized things that you've done to, people need to imagine themselves in a home. Now, a few years back, I'm reminded that when you talked about yours, I'm reminded this family had a beautiful home in a community. It was very much like the rest of the homes in the neighborhood, and they had updated various parts of it, but they had left a hall bathroom in a purple subway tile from the 1960s.
Gee.
And so they said, you know what, we've updated this house enough, we're tired, we don't want to put any more money into it, and somebody's going to, and the house was spotless, that was beautiful too. But they wanted to just say, somebody's going to love a purple bathroom. Well, within a couple of weeks, we had a family come through, And the 10-year-old daughter saw that bathroom, which was going to be hers. It was the hallway bathroom upstairs. And she just jumped for joy. She said, "My favorite color is purple." And the family bought that house.
Who'd have thunk, really?
Who'd have thunk,
So what
yes.
you thought was a liability turned into an asset.
Well, again, and I say this to a lot of people too. I don't care as much what you have as long as you make it sparkle. Okay? So there are dated bathrooms and there are dated bathrooms. And if you have a bathroom that was put in the 60s, but looks like it was put in yesterday based on its condition, you're okay. You know, somebody will appreciate that and live with that until they can make it what they want it to be.
So
Same thing.
things that you would update, things that you would really want to have be nice again are bathrooms and a kitchen, right?
Bathrooms and kitchens are wonderful too. I worry more about, if you can make what you have sparkle, that's fine. I worry more about roofs, HVAC systems, plumbing systems, electrical systems, those things, because those are things that you can't live with problems. Okay? So,
Or a septic system if
a
you
septic,
live out,
there you go.
in the woods.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So a family's going to come and look at your home, and they're probably going to invest all of their available cash in purchasing your home and getting their mortgage and all of that stuff. If they run into a roof problem in the first 1 to 2 years, that could be financially devastating to them because they had a certain amount of money to work with and they put it all into buying your house. Same thing with HVAC and so forth. Okay, the big ticket items that aren't cosmetic. You know, so I encourage people to make sure that their HVAC systems and roofs and things like that are at least maintained to such a level where we can make a great presentation. It's okay to have a 20-year-old heater in your house, but we're going to have to price accordingly. That couple,
Yeah, because you know they're going to have to replace it eventually.
right? And I mean, when I'm showing houses to potential buyers, the first thing I ask for is the seller's disclosure, and that disclosure is going to let us know the age of all those systems and any problems they have had with them over the years, and spell out several other things about the house that are going to be of true concern. Naturally, when they step into this, the first and next step is a home inspection. So they've made an offer's been accepted, and now that person is going to send in their home inspector, and that period is built into the sales contract for them. And that inspector, that licensed inspector, crawls over every inch of that house.
Now, do you recommend that you be there when the inspection is done, but that the homeowner not be?
As a buyer, if I'm in a buyer's agent position, I'm always there. If I'm in a seller's agent's position, I stop by, but I don't hover.
Gotcha.
Okay? Hey, how's it going? Anything I need to be worried about? And then I step away again and let them do their thing. Most good inspectors will allow their client to follow them around, so he can teach them about the house at the same time he's
Well,
inspecting.
that's if it's the buyer, though, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I mean. We have started doing, and I recommend this to any number of selling clients, have a pre-listing inspection. Pay an inspector to come and inspect your house. You'll know ahead of time if there's going to be any surprises.
Well, that way you know what to put on the disclosure report and what not to put on the disclosure report, too.
That inspector's report will become part of your disclosure, okay? And I would always advise any buyer to have the inspector who's working for them do an inspection. That doesn't preclude them from getting their own, but it puts a buyer's mind at ease a little bit to let them, give them an idea of what to expect. Hey, I crawled around in your crawl space and I found this condition. Okay, any inspector worth his salt is going to recommend that this be, rectified in some way.
So if you have some flexibility as a seller and you're looking to downsize, and maybe you have a pretty good idea where you want to be, but you haven't picked your place yet, when would you want to get your house on the market to get best advantage of it? When would you want to be in a position to put the sign out front, have all the marketing begin, and know that you have the best chance of making the sale in a reasonable period of time?
Okay, it's a little bit of a misnomer that, spring market is spring market. That's always going to be true, okay? But it's a bubble, not a spike, okay? So there is a bit of a wave. Also remembering that in the fall and winter months, that people will always move. There's always a reason for people to move, okay? If you had all the flexibility in the world, you might want to wait till spring. But if we take this snapshot of the real estate market today, we see interest rates starting to percolate a little bit. So if between now and March they go up another quarter to half a point, that changes who your buying public is, who's your ideal customer, if you will. So timing the market from a financial perspective is very, very unwise.
Who has a crystal ball?
Who has a crystal ball, right? And from the financial sector, you never advise. I can't imagine you would ever advise somebody, well, time the market, wait a week here, wait a week there, I don't know what's going to happen, and neither do you. Your home is a necessary thing. You must have shelter, you must have food, you must have shelter, you must have clothing. These are the basic necessities of living. So make it less about, try and make it less about, when's the perfect time, and do what you need to do. If somebody in your family is getting a job transfer, then that's when you're doing it, and there will be a buyer for your house at that time. Maybe not as many as there would be in a different month, but they're out there nonetheless.
So Chris, before we wrap, and I know we could keep on talking for hours about all this, before we wrap, I'm sure some of our viewers are going to want to be able to get in touch with you and tap into that wealth of knowledge and experience that you have. What's the easiest way to reach you? Okay, so that's going to be two ways. Use my website, www.chrisbaterealestate.com, or I'm happy to give it out publicly on my cell phone, area code 609-304-7420. Chris, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I know you've disseminated a great amount of good information, and again, I hope some of our viewers will reach out to you and again, avail themselves of your counsel. Well, I can't thank you enough for having me here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. All right, take care. This is Bill Borton, wishing you a good week. I'll see you again next Tuesday at 11 for more Live Better Longer here on RVN TV. Thank you.
What do I want to be when I grow up? Maybe a musician? A veterinarian? Maybe an equestrian? A mommy? Well, why not be all these things and more? Consider joining me, Dr. V, with friends and colleagues as we explore a wide range of topics together. V is for variety, here on RVN TV.
There you go, Richard. Oh, is that too hard?